My name is Shannon Madison, and the last normal sound I remember was the kettle whistling. It was a Tuesday evening, the kind of quiet weekday where nothing dramatic should happen, and I was making tea for my boyfriend Justin the way he liked it. Honey, no milk, because he'd had a long day. The steam fogged the kitchen window until the city lights outside blurred into smears of gold. For 2 years, our apartment had been a sanctuary, a place where life felt soft, predictable, safe. But that night, it felt like a stage, a scene waiting for someone to yell action on a story I didn't realize I was already in. I'd felt the distance growing for weeks, a slow leak in a tire. It wasn't one big explosion, just small, accumulating absences. The way his laughter faded from our kitchen. The way he sat beside me, but lived somewhere else entirely. The way his phone, once tossed casually on the couch, now stayed locked and screen down, as if the rest of the world needed protection from whatever lived inside it. I carried the mug into the living room. Justin was curled on the far end of the sofa legs, pulled in shoulders tight. His eyes were glued to his phone with the kind of focus people usually reserve for an emergency. A faint smile flickered on his lips, then vanished the moment he saw me. "Thanks," he said, taking the mug without looking up. His thumb continued to scroll. I sat across from him rather than next to him. A new habit of mine. A new distance that somehow felt safer than trying to cross the old one. "Bad day?" I asked softly. No, just long." He set the phone down but placed it face down beside him. A fortress wall. A line drawn. I nodded. The Whitmore pitch went well. My voice sounded small, even to me. "That's great," he said, flat distracted. His eyes drifted toward the silent black rectangle like it was pulling him in gravitationally. The silence between us wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, loaded, like something important was dying quietly in the corner, and neither of us wanted to turn around to look at it. I breathed in, steadying myself. I had planned to ease into it, to be gentle, cautious, understanding. But the weight of our silent dinners, the canceled plans, the way Justin had flinched last week when I leaned in to kiss him goodnight, it cracked something inside me. My voice came out quieter than I expected. "Who's Leona?" It hung there, a simple question with the weight of a collapsing building. Justin's head snapped up. Color drained from his face, then surged back in 2 bright, guilty patches on his cheeks. It was all the confirmation I needed. I had seen her name once, a notification that flashed on his locked screen while he showered. Leona. Can't stop thinking about last night. I told myself it was a joke, that my gut was being dramatic. But guts don't lie, they whisper truths we don't want to hear. "Leona," Justin swallowed. "She's a friend. A friend you text until 2 a.m. A friend you had late work drinks with last Thursday." My voice was steady, but inside I felt something sharp tearing slowly. She gets me," he said. I repeated it. "Gets you." "It's not that you don't," Justin said quickly, as if that softened it. "It's just, with you, everything is safe. We have our routines, our little life. She's different, spontaneous. She makes me feel alive." Alive. The word tasted like metal. I thought of the nights I held him when he couldn't sleep, the way I drove across town at 3 a.m. when his car broke down. The quiet, loyal life we built, the one he now dismissed as a cage. Justin looked at me with a softness that felt cruel. "I care about you, Shannon. I love you. But I'm not in love with you." He said it like it was a kindness. Then the final cut. "I'm choosing her." I didn't respond. I didn't cry. I didn't explode. I simply listened as he narrated the dismantling of our life. He leaned forward, voice gentler, almost rehearsed. "But she's unpredictable. It might not work out. She's intense." He took a breath, and what he said next felt surreal. "So I just need a little time. If it doesn't work out with her, we can talk. Okay, just don't close any doors. Don't hate me." He reached out, placing his hand on my knee, a parody of affection, a placeholder gesture meant to soothe him, not me. In that moment, something inside me hardened into cold glass. The grief didn't disappear. It fossilized, became something I could hold without breaking. I lifted his hand from my knee and placed it back into his own lap. Justin blinked, confused. He'd expected devastation, a scene, tears, begging, something to prove he had been worth loving. Instead, I gave him silence, a calm, icy clarity he didn't know how to interpret. "I understand," I whispered. His confusion deepened. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of satisfaction. He left an hour later. He packed fast, anxious, waiting for some emotional eruption that never came. When he finally rolled his suitcase toward the door, he paused. "You're really not going to say anything." I looked at him, really looked, and said two words that shattered the last illusion he had left. "Drive safe." The door slammed. He was gone. But the apartment didn't feel empty. It felt still, cleansed. I stayed frozen in the armchair until the silence settled around me like a blanket. Then I stood, slowly, purposefully. I went to the bathroom first. His razor, his cologne, his tangled earbuds. One by one I placed them in a box. No ceremony, no rage, just removal. Then the bedroom, then the closet, then the nightstand. Every object I touched became lighter the moment it left my space. I labeled each box with a thick black marker, Justin. By the time I finished, the apartment felt like mine again. My air, my walls, my life. And for the first time that night, a small, tired breath escaped me. Not relief, not sorrow. Something between. A beginning. Justin's boxes sat in a neat row by the front door, sharp corners, tidy labels, no trace of the chaos that had created them. If someone walked in, they might think I was preparing for a move. In a way, I was. Not to another apartment, but to another version of myself. The quiet in the apartment felt different now. Not hollow, not grieving, just clean. As if someone had finally shut off a machine that had been humming in the background for so long I forgot it was there. The next afternoon, I dragged the boxes into the hallway right on schedule. 5 p.m. sharp. I didn't want him or his lingering energy inside my space again. At 5:05, a soft knock rattled the metal of my door. I exhaled, braced myself, and pulled it open. Justin stood there framed by the hallway light. He looked strangely polished hair, styled button-down shirt, crisp. The kind of outfit you'd wear for a date, not for collecting the debris of a relationship you blew up. Maybe he had come from one. Maybe he was going to one. Maybe this was just who he wanted to be. Now someone always stepping toward excitement, toward sparks. His eyes darted past me, scanning the apartment, searching for any sign of the life he'd taken for granted. He found none. "Hey," he said softly, performing something between sadness and tenderness. Are you okay? I barely slept last night." His voice trembled in the precise way someone wants you to notice, like he was auditioning for the role of the guy who also hurts. I nodded at the boxes. "Your things are there." He blinked, thrown off script. "Right. Yeah, I see that." I waited. He stalled. He shifted his weight eyes, flickering between me and the boxes, as if he expected them to burst open into some emotional testimony of my suffering. "I want you to know this is really difficult for me too. But it's for the best. For both of us." He offered a pained smile, the kind designed to invite pity. I remained silent. The hallway swallowed his expression whole. "Shannon," he continued, voice tightening. "I know things were complicated, but you and me. We had something real. And I'm not saying this is easy, but you made your choice," I said gently, "and I'm honoring it." That should have been enough. But Justin wasn't looking for closure. He was looking for validation. He let out a brittle little laugh, disbelief breaking through the cracks. "You're not even going to fight for us." "Fight for what?" I turned my head slightly, meeting his gaze full on. "Fight for someone who already left, someone who's already choosing another woman. Fight for what to be your backup plan." His jaw tensed. His eyes swept the apartment again, craving evidence that I was heartbroken, craving proof that he mattered more than he actually did. Instead, he saw a doorway blocked by my body, a quiet, unmistakable boundary. "I thought," he swallowed, voice dropping to a whisper, "I thought you'd be more upset." There it was, the truth behind his confusion. He had expected tears, a dramatic scene, maybe even bargaining. He had wanted to star in the breakup tragedy where he played the reluctant, tortured hero. But I refused to audition. "Justin," I said, calm as still water, "there's nothing to fight for." His mouth opened, closed, opened again. I watched the moment he finally understood. There would be no safety net, no emotional cushion waiting to catch him if Leona disappointed him. He was the one falling now. "Goodbye, Justin." I stepped back inside, closed the door, and turned the lock. The click echoed like a final line in a script, sharp, defining, irreversible. For a long moment, I simply stood there with my hand on the doorknob, listening. A choked sound filtered through, a gasp or a half-formed word, then the drag of boxes across carpet, then silence. The apartment breathed with me. I walked to the kitchen to pour myself a glass of water. Under the warm light, everything looked strangely new, as if someone had repainted my life without asking me. The next days unfolded with unexpected neutrality. Not sadness, not relief, just quiet motion. I deleted the last threads of him from my digital world. I blocked his number, then every messaging platform, then every corner of the internet where he existed. Not cruelly, not spitefully, with the same calm I used to pack his belongings. If a moment of weakness came, I didn't want temptation waiting. I wasn't strong. I was prepared. The first week I moved through my routines like a ghost, but a peaceful one. I slept through the night without dreaming. I ate when I was hungry, not when we usually cooked dinner together. I left dishes in the sink without hearing the echo of imagined judgment. The silence became pleasant, a soft living thing that wrapped around me and said, "This is yours." But the world has threads, loose ones that tug at you when you least expect it. The first came from Lila, one of Justin's college friends who had always tried to remain neutral. She texted me, "Hey Sean, just checking in. How are you holding up? Also, Justin and Leona." That was fast. I stared at the screen. A tiny pulse of something not jealousy, but recognition flickered inside me. The threads were forming, pieces of their story drifting toward me like the beginning of a storm. I typed back, "I'm fine. Hope you're well too." And that was that. But I knew it wouldn't be the last thread. Not even close. The first thread tugged lightly. The next one snapped like wires pulled too tight. A week after Lila's message, I was at the grocery store comparing two completely identical brands of pasta, a ridiculous dilemma, but one that felt luxurious after months of emotional triage when I heard someone call my name. Shannon. I turned to see Priya, one of Justin's colleagues from his old office. She looked at me with the gentle caution of someone approaching a wounded animal they weren't sure had healed yet. "Oh my God," she said, giving me a quick hug. "How are you? I heard everything." "I'm okay," I replied, and to my own surprise, it wasn't a lie. Priya lowered her voice, leaning in like someone about to share state secrets. "Between us, Justin isn't." I blinked, waiting. She continued. "And Leona had lunch with a few old coworkers last week. He looked rough, and she..." Priya made a face, searching for a polite word. "Let's just say she's intense. She threw a mini meltdown because the restaurant was out of her favorite rosé. Justin looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. A quiet, complex feeling rippled through me. Not pleasure, not vindication, but the sharp click of understanding. Unstable things behave in unstable ways. And he kept bringing you up," Priya added. Comparison after comparison. It was uncomfortable. For everyone. I exhaled. "I hope he figures things out," I said, and I meant it. I hoped he figured them out far away from me. We parted ways, and as I drove home, I felt something I hadn't expected: space. A widening, calming space inside me. But the universe wasn't done tugging its threads. A few days later, my phone buzzed with a message from Chloe, one of the neutral mutual friends, the kind who secretly thrives on drama but pretends it exhausts her. Chloe Coast's trip canceled. Leona double-booked him with her friends. She called him boring in front of everyone. I swear she used the word predictable. I stared at the message, not sure whether to laugh or sigh. Predictable. The insult Justin had tried so gently to carve into me. But text from Chloe didn't feel like an opening only information. So I deleted the message. My life was expanding again in small, deceptively quiet ways. I joined a rock climbing class after work. Not because I had always wanted to, but because I suddenly had the energy for things that were just for me. My evenings weren't battles anymore. They were mine. Then came the conversation I didn't want, but somehow knew was inevitable. Dave. Justin's loudest defender, the one who had practically applauded him for following his heart. He called on a Sunday afternoon. "Hey, Sean," he said, voice awkwardly upbeat. You heard?" Heard what I asked. Dave exhaled dramatically. Leona dumped him. I waited. Silence worked better than words with people like Dave. Via text, he added as if delivering shocking news. Said he was too needy and living in the past. I could believe it. Of course I could. Anyway, Dave barreled on. "Justin's really messed up. Total wreck. He wants to talk to you. I think you should hear him out. Everyone deserves a second chance, right?" I looked out the window at the calm evening sky as his voice droned with rehearsed morality. "Dave," I said finally, "my involvement with Justin ended the moment he chose to leave. I'm not his emotional support plan. Do not call me about him again." Dave sputtered something about compassion, but I had already ended the call. The final thread broke, and then Justin began reaching out himself. First, an unknown number. Unknown. "Hey, it's Justin. I heard you moved. Hope you're okay. Can we talk? No apology, no acknowledgement of what he'd done. Just a casual hey, as if we were two acquaintances who'd had a minor disagreement rather than a breakup detonated on my living room couch. I blocked the number. 2 days later, a voicemail slipped into my inbox before I could block the second number. His voice was thick with tears. It's me. Shannon, please. I made a mistake. The biggest mistake of my life. Leona wasn't who I thought. You were everything. You were kind. You were steady, safe, and safe is everything. Please, please call me. I didn't delete it, not out of sentiment, but because it felt like a fossilized piece of the past, something I might one day examine with curiosity, not grief. Then came the flying monkeys. His sister Melissa, whose entitlement was practically genetic. Her text appeared on my lock screen before I blocked her. Melissa Shannon, it's Mel. Justin is hurting. The least you can do is hear him out. Be the bigger person. I blocked her too. The fortress stayed sealed. But entitlement doesn't respect walls. It demands doors remain open even after it sets the house on fire. By the end of the second month, something inside me had settled into place. Something steady. Something unmovable. I wasn't healing from him anymore. I was building myself beyond him. And then when the universe felt the timing was perfect, almost poetic, it introduced someone new. Someone gentle, steady, warm. Evan. It started with a conversation at my climbing class. Then coffee, then laughter, then an ease I didn't realize I'd been craving. With him, my world didn't feel like a quiet battlefield. It felt alive without unpredictability, masquerading as passion. We'd been seeing each other for 6 weeks when it happened. The night the past came crashing back. A Tuesday, rain streaking down my living room windows. Evan beside me in the kitchen, stirring fresh pasta sauce, filling the air with garlic and warmth. A soft knock landed on my front door, wrong, intrusive jolting. Evan glanced at the clock, expecting someone. No, I murmured, but I already knew. Some ghosts don't fade quietly. They come back pounding. The knock wasn't loud, just 3 soft taps, but it split the warm, garlic-scented air of my kitchen like a crack in glass. Evan paused mid-stir. You sure you're not expecting anyone? I'm sure. My voice came out steady, but something cold settled into my stomach. A feeling I recognized instantly, the past clawing at my door. I wiped my hands on a towel, walked through the softly lit living room, and approached the door. Rain streaked down the frosted glass of the hallway window, casting shifting shadows across the floor. I opened the door only a few inches at first, and there he was. Justin, soaking wet, hair plastered to his forehead, eyes red and wide, pleading and lost. Mascara didn't streak down his face the way it had streaked down mine months ago, but something else did ruin. He looked like someone who hadn't slept in days, someone whose world had collapsed, and who suddenly remembered that I used to be the one to hold up the beams. Shannon, he whispered, voice shredded rain dripping off his jacket onto the floor. You didn't answer any of my messages. I needed to see you. My hand tightened on the door. I didn't open it wider. Justin, I said, calm and distant. What are you doing here? I need to talk to you, he choked out. Please. His eyes darted over my shoulder as if searching for familiarity, safety, the soft life he once dismissed. He didn't find it. He found a clean room, warm light, a vase of fresh tulips on the entry table, an apartment that no longer had space carved out for him. I was stupid, he said, suddenly voice cracking like a snapped branch. I was so stupid, Shannon. Leona, she wasn't who I thought she was. She used me. She said awful things. She made me feel worthless. Rainwater dripped from his jawline, landing on my welcome mat. He kept talking, his words tumbling out in frantic confession. Everything you were, she wasn't. You were steady. You were kind. You were safe. And I didn't see it. I didn't appreciate it. I ruined everything, and I know that now. I want to fix things. I want to come home. Home. The word hit me like a distant echo, something familiar but no longer mine. He looked up at me with trembling hope, the hope of someone who believed the door, metaphorical and literal, was still slightly open. Before I could answer, a voice drifted from inside the apartment. Warm, steady, the sound that had quietly become part of my new life. Babe. Everything okay? Evan's footsteps padded toward the entryway. The sauce is almost ready. The shift in Justin was instant and devastating. His face, already pale, went bone white. His mouth fell open. His eyes widened, then shattered. Pure, unfiltered shock. The violent realization that the story he thought he still belonged to had moved on without him. Evan stopped a few feet behind me, not yet seeing who was at the door. But his voice, his presence was enough. Justin swayed slightly, like someone had punched all the air out of him. I didn't look back. I kept my eyes on Justin, on the crumbling ruins of his arrogance, his assumptions, his safety net. The rain thundered against the hallway window. It felt cinematic, as if the universe wanted to give him the dramatic scene he had always expected, but with the wrong ending. I spoke softly. "You were right, Justin." His throat bobbed as he swallowed. It didn't work out with her. His eyes filled instantly. Guilt, grief, humiliation mixing like muddy water. "But you were wrong," I continued, voice steady, final. "About everything else." He blinked rapidly. "Shannon, please. We can fix this. I know we can. I'll do anything. Just don't shut me out." I shook my head gently. "There's nothing to fix." The words landed with the weight of a closing chapter. "My life moved on," I said. "I suggest you do the same." He took a step toward me, but I shifted back, and the message was unmistakable. The threshold was not for him. At last he saw it, the truth he had avoided for months. He wasn't the man I waited for. He was the man I outgrew. His lips trembled. "Shannon, I still love you." I let the silence absorb his confession. I didn't owe him an echo. "Goodbye, Justin." I closed the door with a soft, unmistakable click, the kind of sound that stays with you long after silence returns. For a moment, I stood still listening. On the other side, a broken inhale, a muffled sound, part sob, part disbelief. Then footsteps retreating down the hall, slow and uneven. The past finally leaving. I turned around. Evan stood by the kitchen doorway, eyebrows raised in gentle concern. He didn't ask for explanations or details. He didn't pry. "Everything all right," he murmured. I stepped closer, sliding my hands around his waist as the scent of garlic and herbs warmed the air. "Just a ghost," I said. And for the first time that night, my voice wasn't steady or distant. It was warm, present, alive. Evan brushed a kiss across my forehead. "Come on," he said softly. "Dinner's almost ready." As I followed him back into the kitchen, the apartment glowed, not with someone else's shadow, but with a light that finally felt like my own. In that moment, I understood something deeply, quietly true. Some ghosts don't haunt you. They just wait for you to stop opening the door. The rain softened to a steady whisper against the windows as Evan and I plated dinner. The kitchen glowed with warm light, the air fragrant with garlic, tomatoes, and basil. Every movement felt grounding, the gentle clink of utensils, the soft scrape of sauce against the pan. Evan humming under his breath. Nothing dramatic, nothing cinematic, just peace. I hadn't realized how foreign that feeling had become to me. I sat across from him at the small dining table, fingers wrapped around the warmth of my wine glass. Evan smiled at me, the kind of smile that didn't need answers, explanations, or reassurances. It simply asked, "Are you here with me?" And the answer finally was yes. We ate, we talked, we laughed. It wasn't loud or electric or wild. It was steady. And in the quiet steadiness, I felt something subtle but powerful settle inside me, a sense of belonging that didn't require contortion or compromise to maintain. When dinner was finished and dishes were drying on the rack, I slipped onto the couch, curling up with a blanket. Evan sat beside me, his arm draped loosely over my shoulders. His presence was gentle, unforced, a soft weight that grounded me instead of trapping me. He didn't mention the knock at the door again. He didn't ask what had happened. He just sat there breathing with me in comfortable silence. This, I thought, is what safety is supposed to feel like. Not the kind Justin had mocked, a boring safety that dulled him, but a safety built on respect, presence, stability, mutual care. A safety that didn't demand sacrifice as proof of love. I leaned into Evan's shoulder and let out a slow breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. The ghost of Justin lingered only faintly now, not as a threat, not as a wound, just as a memory of a life I no longer recognized as my own. He had knocked on my door one last time, and the past had been given the chance to fade the way it was meant to, quietly, definitively, without fanfare. Later that night, after Evan left with a soft goodbye kiss and the promise to text when he got home, I locked the door behind him and leaned back against it. The apartment was quiet, not the fragile quiet of heartbreak, but the grounded quiet of a new beginning. I walked through the living room and paused by the window. The rain had stopped. The city lights reflected off wet pavement below, shimmering like a fresh coat of possibility. I touched the glass lightly and let my thoughts drift. For months I had been living inside a story Justin wrote, one where I was the backup plan, the fallback, the safety net, a character built around his needs and his ego. And the moment he stepped outside that script, I had been left to wander a stage still set for a play I was no longer performing in. But tonight, I realized something extraordinary. I had rewritten the story, rewritten myself. Not out of spite, not out of anger, but out of clarity. People talk about heartbreak like a wound that must be tended, mourned, slowly healed. But sometimes heartbreak is simply a door that was always meant to close because the life on the other side was too small for who you were becoming. I poured myself a glass of water and returned to the living room, sitting cross-legged on the couch. My phone buzzed. A message from Evan home safe. Tonight was perfect. Sleep well, Shannon. A smile tugged at my lips, soft, genuine, the type that grows quietly instead of bursting open. I set the phone aside and stretched out across the couch, letting the room cradle me in gentle warmth. It struck me suddenly and clearly. Justin leaving wasn't the moment my life fell apart. It was the moment the excess weight slipped off my shoulders, the moment the storm cleared, the moment I began hearing my own heartbeat again. He had tried to return. He had tried to reclaim a space he once assumed would stay open for him. But the truth is simple. When someone teaches you exactly what your love meant to them, you believe them. When someone chooses chaos over you, you let them go. And when the past comes knocking, drenched and desperate, you close the door, not with cruelty, but with certainty. Because some ghosts honor the finality of a closed door, and some chapters end not with bangs or breakdowns, but with a soft, resolute click. I curled deeper into the blanket and closed my eyes, listening to the hush of the city outside. Tomorrow would be ordinary, beautifully